good morning to you all. Welcome to Sunrise. It is this Monday morning. I'm Chamberlain. So,
well, I hope your weekend was better than mine, and mine wasn't bad. So, good morning and welcome. I'm Maupe Okun Yusuf.
Either way, you just shake it off and move on, right? Good morning. I'm Ayo Makinde. Today is October 21, 2024. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, if we shake it off and move on, like Ayo has said, but one of the places we can go shake it off is this scenery right here for you. But yes, and by the way, 25 degrees centigrade here in Abuja. So the weather is just lovely, as you'd like it to be before much later in the day it gets a little hotter, as it were. But yeah, you could do a lot this Monday morning. So get up.
So, Chamberlain, you know, schools are midterm here in Abuja. So, driving into the city this morning, you could just tell by the traffic. Yeah, traffic was quite light, and, you know, you could admire the scenery a bit more. When you take a look at what is happening here at the National Stadium, the MKO Abiola Stadium, as it is called, I mean, you can't just help but admire the greenery, and maybe, I don't know, people usually have quite a bit of activities around the stadium. Young people, at least I saw a few of them trooping into the stadium this morning, perhaps to play a match. Yeah, they were wearing jerseys, so I'm not very certain if it was a football match or something. But yes, people do make use of these facilities, and as much as possible, I think that, you know, we shouldn't leave them lying fallow. We should, you know, make as much use of them as we possibly can.
One thing that comes to mind is, you know, I think they call it green areas in Abuja. And it's supposed to be areas where, you know, not just for construction, as it were. You should have such areas where, you know, communities can go gather there. You should have facilities close to localities. That way, now that there's a challenge with the cost of petrol, the idea is for people not to have to commute to a very distant area to have any purchase whatsoever. So if you have those mini facilities or areas closer to people's residences, it cuts down the commute time. It ensures that the roads are not clogged. So that's how cities are planned. That's how it should be.
Tell developers.
It shouldn't be all construction.
Tell developers and tell the people, the enforcers. I think they have Abuja Development Control to pay attention to, you know, to the plan that they have given to developers, because oftentimes what happens is that those things are incorporated into the plans, but after a while, because they know that the enforcers are not paying any attention, they sell off those lands, and then before you know what's happening, another construction.
We just bite our nose to spite our face.
I can tell you something. One of the things that really is very seductive about Abuja is the greenery. The moment you drive into the city, you cannot just help but notice the greenery. But I don't really think that for me, right now I'm going through a phase, and what's the phase I'm going through is the weather. If you notice, the weather is beginning to change. We can see that we're about to enter the dry season, and you know how the dry season can be in Abuja. But in the meantime, please take in all of this greenery, because it will shock you. In the dry season, when you come into the city, everywhere is brown. It is the direct opposite of what it is that you're seeing right now. Right now, we're seeing in the daytime, it's really hot, and at night or just towards evening, you have these heavy rains. They fall in very short spasms, and then they stop. Maybe they will fall like 2-3 hours, and then they stop all of a sudden, and then sudden heat comes in again. You know it's about to usher you into the Harmattan, and then right on into the dry season, the famous dry season of Abuja.
There'll still be movies in the dry season.
There will.
In case you think he's not going to see movies, I think we'll be wrong on that.
Ayo, well, are you looking forward to the dry season in Lagos? Are Lagosians tired of rain and water? Maybe. Thankfully, was there any flood this year?
Oh, well, you know, there is a signature flood from the water release, and we had this conversation on Saturday.
A flash flood, huh?
Yes, that conversation on Saturday took us to give us the privilege of realizing that there are 52 tributaries apart from the Oyan Dam that releases water. That information was given to us by the MD of the Ogun-Osun, the CEO of the Ogun-Osun River Basin Authority. And that's to say that there is a lot more to do that rather than focus on just the Oyan Dam that releases water into a specific area. And of course, people, they look forward to this unfortunate flood every year. But that's not to take away from this beautiful sight right in my face here. Every time I see a site like this, Chamberlain and Malkwe, I always remember the days of postcards. Take a shot like this, you put it beside some message, you write an address, and you just send it to whoever. This is beautiful. I wish we could do that again for this particular site right before my face, the Abiola Stadium in Abuja.
All right, yes indeed. Let's go ahead and take you through some of the dailies this morning.
One of the many stories you will find in the news this morning is on the front page of this Nigeria newspaper. 20 million out-of-school kids, potential Boko Haram bandits in 10 years. That's from former President Obasanjo. Only 1.5 trillion naira, representing 6.39% budgeted for education in 2024. The details of that story is on page 2. Nigeria News Direct has the same story. Nigeria's 20 million out-of-school children are potential Boko Haram recruits, Obasanjo warns. Find the details of that story on page 21. Daily Trust has this one. CNG, commercial drivers, others, task government on infrastructure, refueling stations, decry high conversion cost. Petrol filling stations should be made to install gas facilities. Who said that? And the details on the inside pages. Blueprint newspaper, mob action, jungle justice on police personnel, worry IGP, others probe. Inspector slain in Edo Quarry attack, Okada riders kill officer in Lagos. Anambra court crash claims 24 in Rivers gunmen attack. Disturbing data, but the details continue on the inside pages. New Telegraph has this one. LG Financial Autonomy. Anti-corruption agencies to deploy tracking system. That's according to sources. As FG seeks grassroots development to reduce rural-urban migration, contain insecurity, create jobs, others. The details of that story on page 2 of the paper this morning. The Abuja Inquirer has 2 murders send shockwaves in Abuja. Principal OAP murdered. Center inmates detained by police. Find the details of that story on the inside pages of the paper. Daily Independent. Auto experts doubt success of FG's CNG vehicle conversion initiative. Say initiative lacks proper planning, safety questionable. Facilities, spare parts, expertise, processes may be compromised. Standards Organization of Nigeria lacks capacity. All these you'll find details of on page 29 of Daily Independent today. Business Day has how Nigeria's economy can bounce back. It's what everybody wants. Economic revenue diversification seen as game changer, enabling environment needed to attract investments, that's according to experts. The front page of Vanguard newspaper has this. FG's zero-duty food import policy faces fresh hurdles. Customs agents hint at confusion among implementation agencies. Inflation exchange rate defeat policy objectives, that's according to analysts. Policy not optimal, that's from AfriInvest. Find the details continue on the inside pages. The Guardian newspaper, FG's budgets in logjam as multiple appropriations seek attention. What does that mean? The details on page 6. The Nigerian Tribune has 16 months of decline. Critical market indicators defy FG World Bank's reform optimism. That's on page 12. Credibility of reform in question, according to Adebayo. Exporters, multinational companies repatriating export proceeds. Government not interested in citizens' welfare. That's from an economist. Is that true? The details you'll find on page 12 of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. These are some of the papers we have for you today.
So there you go. Those are some of the dailies we've got for you this morning. But just give us a moment. We will be back.
We believe we have stopped the decline. We are not where we want to be. Look, our president's message in the Renewed Hope agenda is, let us confront our reality. We took the bold choices. Today, state governments, local governments, and federal government is better funded. Of course, if inflation is there, cost of living challenges is there, not only unique to Nigeria. In fertilizer price, energy prices, and cost of living crisis is being witnessed in many countries. But that is not to comport us, but just to illustrate. So the message is that we are confident we have turned the economy in the right direction, and we have seen the worst. We can only reap bountiful harvest going into the future.
Well, as you may have seen, we've got Senator Ibrahim Shekarau here with us. He's a former governor of Kano State, former Minister of Education, of course, also was a senator. Good morning and good to see you, sir.
Good morning, Chamberlain. It's a pleasure being here again.
Yes, I forgot to add, Chairman, not League
of Northern Democrats.
What is that about, though?
Well, I think the League came about as a result of various conversations, discussion cycles, lamentations all over the place. And many of us felt that we need to sit down and address these issues. This does not mean we do not appreciate efforts of the various sectors, many organizations up here in the north. But a number of us across the political parties, it's non-partisan, but it's political. And you have all kinds of categories of people. You have the women, the youth, the technocrats, the politicians, the business community, and every sector is represented there. Our concern is, number one, to mobilize our general public. You see, Chinua Achebe used to say that when things fall apart, the center cannot hold. If all our states and the regions and the various sectors of Nigerian community are falling apart, the center will not hold. So it is not necessarily about the central government, it's not necessarily about any political party. We felt that let us start from looking inwards. Up here in the north, people are wondering whether we are starting any political party. I said, look, even the Constitution does not recognize regional political parties. And when we say north is regional, so it's not about forming any political party. After all, some of us still belong to our different parties. I mean, PDP, the convener was APC, and many others. Almost about 4, 5, 6 parties are represented there. The main thing there is that we come together and look at the challenges up here in the north. And we mobilize our society, we mobilize our communities, we mobilize our leaders. Look, let's look at the various challenges that we are having. We identify 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 areas, and also call upon the governments to look inwards and see what we can join hands together and address these issues. You see, while you are talking of the leadership, you are also talking of the followership. Work together.
That's a key part, because I know we just heard the Minister of Budget and Planning, Atiku Bagudu, saying they've gotten certain things in place. But over the weekend, many were privileged to see or even watch, for those who did, former head of State General Yakubu Gowon commemorating his 90th.
Yes, exactly.
And there are a group of people, generations, who sit back and wonder, they don't know what do we make of all of what they see. Because now, if you fast track to today, they just ask themselves, look, if leaders, incidentally, you're talking about coalition of Northern Democrats, if they had taken certain decisions, Northern leaders, over the years, many feel this country would have been way better than we are now.
Well, I cannot but agree with you. You see, one may argue that why now? You see, for everything in life has to have a beginning. You have to get a point to start. We have been talking and praising the Sardauna period and all what they have done. It's over 60 years now. We need to look back, and the generations behind us, generations yet unborn, will not forgive us. I was at the various sessions of the 90th anniversary of General Gawan, and as you rightly said, we had all the stories, Gawan did this and so on. Our problem is that, you see, we keep experiencing a situation whereby we always said previous government was better. You're complaining today. When the government leaves, another one comes, you say that of yesterday was better. So we felt that, look, we must stop all of this. And Chamberlain, we all know that part of our problem generally in Nigeria is lack of political stability and continuity. Of course, the military interventions has not helped matters, because if you compare with other countries who got their independence just about our own time, I had a study tour on Malaysia while I was in office. Malaysia is as old as Nigeria in terms of the time of our own independence, but you don't have more than 5, 6 leaders of the nation of Malaysia up to today. But today, I'm sure, if I ask you to count, you may likely miscount the number of people we've had. And, well, we've gotten this 25 years since the current dispensation of the current democracy. But even then, it is still below average. So I think we are just saying, let's pause now and stop lamentation, stop complaining. This is bad, anybody that. I say, let's look inwards. Identify what exactly are the issues, particularly up here in the north. We agree that we have a lot of challenges. You see, anytime you talk of the number of children out of school, you say in Nigeria, and then the 60, 70, 80% is up here in the north. People will always tell you in the past, agriculture used to be the mainstay thing holding the economy up in the north. What is happening now? And one thing that I kept saying since I came into office in 2003, I discovered that not only in the north, generally in Nigeria, Chamberlain, the states are what I call over-independent of one another. There are no 2 states in Nigeria that I know are doing anything together. And this is not helping us. And these are some of the issues we want to really bring to the board and then call the attention. There are many things that if states will collaborate and work together, a lot of these things are likely to change for the better. Agreed, I've seen the Minister of Budget saying all of these things. We're not saying government is not moving, doing its own best, but I think it is still below average. We believe that a lot more could be done much, much, much better than where we are today. And this is what we're trying to do. Another thing that the League is trying to address is the unity. You see...
Unity in the north or in the country?
Well, unity in the north and eventually in the entire country. If you remember, in the last 2-3 decades, before now, nobody is talking of this so-called Hausa Fulani. It's a thing that has been thrown into the throats of the people. People talk of far north, core north, and so on. These are all stupid things that have been brought in. We used to be one community, one people, but now the bits and pieces of the ethnicity, tribal differences, and so on have come in. Agreed, in the north we have the largest number of different ethnic groups, but we are the same group, these ethnic groups were existing long before independence, and we were living in peace. So these are some of the things that we want to address. We identified about 4 or 5 issues: the issue of unity, issue of the economy, issue of education, issue of insecurity. So all of these things, rather than waiting for the government and even the state government or the central government to come and address it. If you take the issue of insecurity in the southwest, in the northwest, if you look at Sokoto, Zamfara, Kebbi axis, and maybe some part of Katsina, each of the states is doing its own bit on its own. What stops all the 3, 4 states that are in the same zone coming together, working together? I'm sure I've never had anything like that they've come together.
The former governor of Kaduna tried it, but he said for some reason they weren't able to pull through for the region.
No. That is very naive. And unless we really get together. In terms of even the resources we're spending, Zamfara will be spending its own money, setting up its own vigilante groups, spending a lot of money, and doing their own thing in terms of security analysis and architecture. Sokoto is doing this, a different thing, KB is doing a different thing, Kaduna, and you find that there is no border stopping these people from one end to the other. If you chase them out of Sokoto, they'll go to Zamfara. Chase them out of Zamfara, they'll go to Katsina, they'll go to Kaduna. And I believe, even if the states on their own fail to do it together, I think the federal government needs to sit up. I'd say, look, call the governors concerned within the environment, within the territory, within the area of this insurgency, and work out a common front. The last few weeks ago, the military moved into Sokoto because of the killing of the emir of Gobira and so on. They want to flush them out. But what did they do to ensure that when they are flushed out, they do not run to the neighboring states and the same challenge? So next time you just move the military into... I think what people used to call the security architecture used to and need to be addressed. Of course, we appreciate the security agencies. While we're in the Senate, another committee was set up, and I can say that I was the only one that submitted a volume of a document of submission to the committee. I looked at the issue. Look, when you look at the security agencies, the number is inadequate, the equipping is inadequate, the training is nothing to write home about, the welfare is not there, and of course, when you talk of the pension, I was in charge of pension in the Senate, and I know what they all pass through. If you take the Nigerian police, up to today we are talking of less than 400,000, 350, 400 plus thousand. I always compare with Egypt. Egypt is 80 plus million, almost half of Nigerian population. But Egypt has about 1 million policemen. But we're over 200 million, Chamberlain. We're still about... We're still not up to 500,000 of the police.
Maybe that's why we create a different agency for every single thing that we think of.
Exactly.
Because ideally, these are things that police should be able to do. People have talked about how the police should be able to ensure that traffic runs smoothly, manage traffic, manage corruption. Exactly. We have an EFCC to look after that, manage vehicles on the way. We have VIO for that, So maybe we found ways to increase the numbers without exactly doing something
you recall
about
that during our 2011 debate where I, Buhari, and Nuhu, I challenged Nuhu. I said, look, if federal government, if Obasanjo had not over-pampered you with funds, you wouldn't have performed. Give the same Nigerian police the funding you are giving to FCC, they will perform. Yes, when the FCC is detaining people in guest houses, the police are detaining in very smelly cells and very terrible environments. Give them the same fund, they will perform.
So let me quickly just bring that in, because since you've mentioned the EFCC, you've seen the attempt by a number of state governors in recent times to move for the scrapping of the EFCC. They say it is an illegal entity. What are your thoughts on it?
I think I don't agree with that. After all, I think it's backed by law. I'm not a lawyer. I don't think it is an illegal entity. Unfortunately, what leads to all this complaint is probably the way the FCC operates. See, in the past, during Nuhu Ribadu, with all due respect to him, he will mobilize 1 a.m., 2 a.m., surround the house, all the force, putting people, handcuff, and so on. All this is unnecessary. You see, EFCC is not supposed to behave like the typical security man in Nigeria, hiding in a corner, waiting for you to commit the offense and jump out to arrest you. No, EFCC should be out to enlighten people, even people in government. How much of the efforts have EFCC made to ensure that people in government are enlightened, are educated, to know what are the challenges in managing their finances? You don't wait until the offense is committed. How many of the people, with all due respect, that find themselves in government that do not know anything to do with the financial instruction, store regulations, civil service rule, the procurement procedures, and so on. All these things are issues that we need to let people in government know. It's not just about the bureaucrats in the office, the director, the schedule officer. The president, the governor, and our legislators need to be taken along to understand all of these laws.
Are you saying people are corrupt because they don't understand the laws?
In most cases, from what I've seen that is happening in most of the governments, you see, I'm just lucky that I have been in the bureaucracy for many years, so I know all of this. But a number of the charges from EFCC is charges bordering violation of the rules, violation of the procurement procedures. These are some of the things that are causing all of these things. And I believe EFCC needs to do a lot more rather than waiting until the offenses are committed. I look forward to seeing them enlightening people in the government. Immediately people are brought into office, they should reach out to them, organize retreats for them, organize enlightenment. I think ICPC used to do this. I don't know whether they are still doing it. But rather than scrapping all of it, I think they should go all out to enlighten the public, enlighten particularly that people that find themselves in government.
So you do not want the EFCC to be...
No, I don't support its total scrapping.
It's total scrapping. In other words, a partial scrapping.
Well, my thinking is that EFCC need to really look inwards and change the approach, the style of their operation. Look at the recent drama we've been experiencing between the EFCC and my brother from Kogi State. I mean, it's very embarrassing to all of us. Both the EFCC and my friend Bello have not held matters. The EFCC has not handled the situation in the best of ways. Look at the chairman publicly saying if he doesn't prosecute Yahya Bello, is going to resign and so on. How many months now? How many weeks? And both agencies are not really sometimes respecting the court orders. And this is leading to all of these things. So I think rather than changing the laws, you see, I've always argued Nigeria, we have enough of the laws to govern us. We don't need any more new laws. What we need is our attitude to govern us, our attitude in our operations. Of course, as a teacher and guidance counselor, I know one of the most difficult things to do is change of attitude. So we need to do a lot of advocacy to change the attitude of our citizens, particularly those coming into office.
You know, some time ago, you granted an interview, and you said that Nigerians may not get the kind of leaders they want because they don't seem to be doing the right things to elect those kinds of leaders.
That's correct.
Has anything changed ever since?
No, I still hold that view. If I may start on that line, Chamberlain, you see, in the INEC register, we have 93 million registered voters. And I believe they are not fake. They're all there. But on the day of the election, what percentage of these 93 million come to vote? Chamberlain, I'm worried. We are descending so low. Today, we have a president that is sitting there because of only 8 million votes out of 93 million registered voters. So I think all of us being elected are not really representative enough of the people. On the day of the election, put all the votes together. You don't have to up to 40 million. Where is 50 million voters? So I think the problem is the parties are guilty. INEC is guilty. All the civil societies, all our institutions. And I've since discovered that what really is happening, when you come to do the registration of voters, the traditional leaders are involved, the clerics, the imams, the preachers, everybody is saying, and I've seen in this country a situation whereby even some churches said, unless you show your INEC voter's card, you won't come in, and so on. But when the elections come, all of these categories step out. You leave the environment to what you call the politician, the political parties. I expect a lot of the same mobilization on the time of the election. I think most of them are stepping aside because they feel they don't want to appear partisan. But it's not partisan. Mobilize the people to come out and vote. If at a polling booth, Chamberlain, you have up to 500 registered voters and 300 turn out to vote, nobody, no amount of thugs, even if you come with a gun there, you cannot disperse these people and snatch boxes. But the situation whereby in a ballot box, you have 500 registered voters, only 10, 15, 20 come to vote, these thugs, 2, 3 of them, they will come and send away the polling class, snatch the boxes and take them away. So I think part of our challenge is to enlighten, of course the media too, to enlighten Nigerians to come out to vote on the day of election. All these complaints we're making about what governments do. If you fail to come and vote, you don't have the moral right to complain. Where were you?
But there's some people have suggested that for us to address some of the challenges we have with the country, even though they say a lot rises and falls with leadership, the kinds of people that we elect.
Exactly.
Now they think, even if Northern coalition of Northern Democrats come today, if tomorrow the Southern region come up with their own group, that we seem not to be addressing the main issue because they think that our style of politics, winner takes all, is a problem. They think that if we change that, there won't be so much, they spend all their money, they do everything to get into that position because they just want to go there and then leave the resources of the country.
Exactly.
And so if we try and de-emphasize that and don't make it a winner-take-all approach, that way there might be a lot less agitation and the way things are going. Do you agree with that?
Well, I quite agree with that. And I want to say, Chamberlain, you see, charity begins at home. By this, I mean the political parties. If all the parties end up giving you evils to choose from, these are some of the problems. You see, once you get it wrong, I have been advocating this, once you get it wrong at the political party level, it's garbage in, garbage out. They will bring in, it will be a vicious cycle. If you get the wrong people in charge of political parties, they want to have their likes to come into government. And you find that the so-called primaries in most cases are being abused, money is being exchanged. It's like going to purchase the ticket and so on. And the exorbitant cost of even asking people to pay for the contest. How can you get the best of people? Most of the time, most of the best people do not have that kind of money. Of recent, I understand some states were conducting local government election. They said for you to contest chairmanship, you have to buy the form 10 million. For you to contest councillorship, you have to buy the form 5 million. Where would my young man who is committed to serve his people in my village find 5 million to buy the form because he wants to come and serve in his community as a councillor or as a chairman? So I think while I agree that we need to change our attitude, we need to really get things done better, the political parties, and we even urge people to really get into all the political parties so that they make sure correct people are elected, and when the contest comes in, they ensure that the parties really give a very level playing ground so that all people that can participate, all those that think can have something to offer. And in some cases, even the communities go on search and get the right people to come in.
For instance, I mean, yes, you say people should come in, but there are lots of young people out there who think, look, they want to come in. But these people who have been there for like forever make it difficult for them. They come up with political thugs, they put humongous fee, they make the entry level very difficult, even though the paper qualification is almost next to nothing compared to when you're looking for a job. Exactly. So that generation thinks that your generation has failed them.
That is exactly what we're out to change. It's not just about getting the leadership. We want to mobilize. That's why I said when you talk of the leadership, we are talking of the followership. part of our challenge and our objective in the League of the Northern Democrats is to mobilize the people, to mobilize the communities, to understand that don't just wait until during election a candidate will come and give you some pittance, not more than 5,000 worth of food item, and you bring him into office, and in 4 years he end up embezzling 5 billion of your money, and you start complaining. So one of the things that we are trying to do is to enlighten the public, enlighten the youth, enlighten all the voters, that if you want to have a change, please, from the councillor upwards, try to find out who is it. We want to disabuse the mind of the people to stop talking of where are you coming from, what tribe, what section of the country. Talk about who is it, what antecedents do you have behind you? What did you do in the past? What records can you show to prove to us that you can do better when you come on board?
It's an ambitious goal, I would say, you have set for yourself with the Coalition of Northern Democrats. That's the name, right?
Yeah. League of Northern Democrats.
League of Northern Democrats.
That's right.
Okay. Well, I'm just looking at, because your opening statement, you had quite a lot to say, and you touched on almost everything, every single aspect. But, one cannot ignore the issue on education, because just yesterday, former President Olusegun Obasanjo was in Bauchi State, and he talked about this issue of education, how we have a crisis on our hands. It says, the World Bank says Nigeria has at least 20 million children out of school. I mean, someone has questioned who's doing the counting, but I mean, let's go with their figures, because the federal government disputes that. But the number of children that even the federal government admits that we have out of school is staggering. And we know that it's a ticking time bomb. I mean, we're already beginning to see the effects of some of those things. And I believe that as an educator, that must really, really tug at your heart. To say, how is it that we ended up here, where so many children are out of school? So many children are unable to contribute to the future as Nigerians.
Now, you see, this is my daily cup of tea, starting from classroom teacher, school principal for 13 years, director of planning and education, permanent state education, minister of education. And I was into the trade unionism of the NUT Principals Conference. You must have heard of ANCOPS. I rose up to the national president of principals of secondary schools in this country. So I've known it all. Part of the problem is lack of continuity in our policies. You see, we have a very beautiful policy on education. Let me give you a particular instance that led to some of this problem. In the mid-70s, the policy was reviewed during the same Obasanjo time. We were even saying the new national policy on education. The policy was reviewed to bring in what we say more of functional education. And that was the time when the UPE was introduced. The idea of the UPE, the products of the UPE in the mid-70s that were anticipated to graduate in the early 80s was to go into the new arrangement of 6334. The new national policy, of course not new anymore, provides that the junior secondary school component was supposed to be more of the old craft school arrangement, whereby every student from JSS 1 to JSS 3 should have acquired a certain skill, should have acquired a certain craft. And in fact, the policy even said, after junior secondary school, you are supposed to be somehow employable. But unfortunately, in the mid-70s, when the Obasanjo government made these changes, with all sense of hope and aspiration, they placed orders for importation of a lot of introductory technology equipment from Korea, from Germany, from many other places. By 1981-82, when the first graduates of the UPE program came on board, the new civilian governments were not ready for them. No plan for them. And this was nationwide from the federal to the states. You know, immediately they took over from the military. They want to give the impression that here we are talking of rural infrastructure, rural development, electricity, and so on. This aspect was ignored. I was a school principal then. We had in our hands students of the UPE coming into junior secondary school. No, the instructors to do the introductory technology aspect were not there. The equipments were not put in place in all the schools. They remained in their cartons and so on. While the government was importing the equipments, nobody remembered that you need to prepare the instructors, the teachers. If you don't have teachers in school, you have a refugee camp. It's not just about the buildings. It's not just about the furniture of the classroom. It's not just about getting the students. The teacher is what makes a place to be called a school. And this was not done. So everybody was moved into junior secondary school. We continued the old grammar program. They finished junior secondary school. We pushed them into senior secondary school. And the population that came from the UPE program was so overwhelming. That was the beginning of overcrowding in our institutions. And unfortunately, because of the absence of the introductory technology provision, the students graduate from schools, no skills, nothing, they are not employable, and they're in large numbers. That was the beginning of this out of school or dropouts that are not in school, are not having any role to play. And I think subsequently, my mentor, Professor Fafunwa, used to say that it takes you one jump to fall into the ditch. Suddenly it takes you 100 or 1,000 jumps to come out. The neglect has been there for a very long time. One may ask, while you were there, what did you do? Of course, I was there for 10 months as a Minister of Education. But we started packaging all of these things and see how we can now transform the situation. We marshaled out a program in the Jonathan government, mass production of teachers, so that we have enough of the teachers in our schools. Before you even talk environment matters, of course, but you don't have teachers. So most of the civilian administrations were after building of the schools. I can give you billions tomorrow. In 6 months, you can build thousands and hundreds of thousands of classrooms. But in 6 months, will you be able to provide the teachers? No. So this has to be addressed, and that is where we are getting the challenge.
All right.
And so by the grace of God, I think if we get some serious planning as to what we need to do, and education is the main vehicle of change in anything. Unless we address that, all of these stories will continue to be recycling itself all over the place.
All right, Ayo.
Well, thank you, Chamberlain. Senator, I'm going to stay on that particular issue. When you say there was a lack of, or there had been lack of continuity among some administrations in the north, or maybe in other parts of the country as well, does that indicate a lack of vision?
Of course, yes. You see, I think even within the 25-year dispensation that we've had, you'll find that governments of the same parties do not have a common program or common policies. Whenever they come in, check, all the political parties are guilty of this. One will expect that a political party has its own manifesto. And if A is elected today, the party ensures that he's implementing the policy, the manifesto of the party. After 4 years or 8 years, the same party produces the same government. You discover that all of the previous policies and programs are jettison, are abandoned, and they come up with the new issues. So this is part of the lack of continuity.
Now, does that also now
continuity?
Yeah. My apologies. Does that also mean that it's a national problem and not just something among governments?
It is.
So a lack of vision is a national problem?
No, it is national. It is a national problem, and at all levels. At all levels. I remember some 2 decades ago, one university researcher went around the federation and brought out a report that 85 to 90% of local government chairmen elected didn't know why they were there. And I'm afraid, if you come up, with all due respect, some of the governors and probably to the extent of a president do not know why they are there. You see, people don't even understand that governance is about addressing the aspirations, the wishes of the people they are governing. How many of them even take their time to find out what are the expectations, what are the challenges, what are the aspirations? You can imagine a state government that cannot give adequate drinking water, clean water, adequate healthcare program, going to spend hundreds of billions on flyovers to beautify the city or what?
Well, Senator,
after what percentage of our people have cast to fly over your flyovers?
So I'm going to ask that question again.
Address
yes.
Yeah,
my apologies. So now, number one, so two things quickly on this particular issue and then we'll move on. On the one hand, there are those who believe that the national vision is already stated in maybe the national pledge or in the national anthem, one way or the other. On the other hand, just a second, sir. On the other hand, there are those who say, so if we have a vision or we don't have a vision, so exactly what are you saying? Are you saying we have a national vision that is not being chased, being pursued, being followed, or we don't have one and we need to create?
I believe we have a vision, and from the Constitution and several other documents, we have a vision. We have well spelled out what governments are supposed to be, even though you don't have all the details. Our problem, and all the parties, there is no political party that will get registered without coming up with a well spelled out vision in the name of manifesto. But our quarrel is that our attitude to all of those documents. If you go to INEC, all the 18 registered political parties, you find they registered their parties with very well detailed manifestos. But what are the parties doing to ensure that those elected under the platform of their parties are really pursuing the objectives, the manifesto, the vision of the political party as mentioned in their manifestos? And that's why I said, if you get it wrong in the political parties, how many of the leaders of the parties even care to insist and find out what the governments under their parties elected are doing?
Isn't that a problem on its own?
If you have the right people to monitor, that's the word, to checkmate, to summon. But a situation whereby you don't have the right people in the leadership of the party who say, okay, Governor, come. Mr. President, let's meet.
Isn't that a problem on its own, Senator?
These are the things that we promised the country.
Yeah, isn't that a problem on its own? So on the one hand, it's so easy, it seems like it's so easy for a politician to jump from one political party to another for one reason or the other. It suggests that, look, it's not a function of a purpose. It's a function of interests. So if you say that we have a vision as a nation, what is the Nigerian mission's or vision statement that every Nigerian can say, this is the Nigerian vision and this is what every politician should be held accountable for?
Well, I think it's very spelled out that Nigerians, one of the vision is to have a united nation, a prosperous nation, and these are not said in so much details in the Constitution. If we say we need, the Constitution says we must have a united nation. It is up to the operators of government to ensure what do we need to do to achieve this united nation. If the Constitution says we need to have a very prosperous nation, it is the operators of the Constitution, people in government, that are supposed to come up with policies that will lead us to having a prosperous nation. So you don't have to have every detail of the vision in the Constitution. We have all what it takes in the Constitution telling us what is the vision, where we need to get to, where we need to find ourselves in Nigeria.
Okay.
So it is the operators. I trust you. I said earlier on, we have enough of the laws. We have a lot of the legislation governing our operations in government. Our problem is getting the people to respect and obey what is there. And for them to do so, we need somebody to operate like a chief whip from the political parties to monitor,
I'm hoping that we'll be able to get that kind of person sometime soon, if we already have that person to activate. Well, let me take you back to something that you said earlier in responding to Malkwe's question. You talked about functional education. And I hold on to it because of your responses to the issue of out-of-school children and the comment of former President Obasanjo. And a good number of times, almost every opportunity he gets, he tells us as a nation that if we don't do something about out-of-school children, in another 10 years, we have an army of potential bandits and terrorists on our hands. Now, when you talk about functional education, what do you mean?
Yeah. Oh, yes. What I mean, I've made some explanation. You see, we need to go back to the drawing board. These issues are still in the national policy on education. Number one, we must have, if you like, a crash program. In the UPE days, many of us are aware, there was a crash program producing a number of teachers to match the number of children that are being mobilized to go to school. Today, there isn't that program. I remember when I was in office as a minister, I made a memo to the council, it was approved. We upgraded some colleges of education to universities of education. Our intention is to make sure we have a program nationwide by federal government, by state governments, mass production of well-trained teachers. That is number one. That will bring in a lot of hands to handle the situation, the population that we have in school. Number two, to go back to drawing board and see what do we do to implement the introductory technology aspect of the national policy on education. There is no way you can have functional education if you don't have the right instructors to produce the teachers that will come and handle that curriculum of introductory technology, where you teach all this kind of skills in school. And this is not any rocket science. It had happened before. Virtually every part of Nigeria, we have what we call the craft school. My immediate senior attended craft school in Kano. Before the end of his 3 years craft school, he was able to come home and do some little wearing in the home, some mending of broken chairs here and there. So if at that level of junior secondary school, that used to be craft school, it is the same curriculum, the same policy, the same program of the craft school that was now translated into junior secondary school. That is the main purpose of breaking the secondary school. You and I probably attended 5-year secondary school. But the first 3 years was meant to produce some functional education, no matter how small, so that at the age of 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, the child is able to use his hands to produce something, and they can easily be employable. And then, of course, the universities, I understand, they have introduced a lot of entrepreneur programs. This needs to be intensified. The government needs to give them a lot of funds. Some of the complaints in the universities, they do have the directorate or the department of entrepreneurial program, but how much funding is realized there?
Well, we do clearly have several things to address if we need to fix a lot of the challenges. Always a pleasure to have you on, Senator Ibrahim Shekarau, former governor of Kano State, former Minister of Education and Chairman League of Northern Democrats. Thank you and all the best to you.
Thank you very much for being here, and we look forward to another day.
Yes, we do, absolutely. Well, Business Morning comes up now.
Well, hello and welcome to the first trading day of the 4th week of October right here in Lagos, Nigeria. Let's get to the top stories that set to agenda now. For the week, we have some stocks to watch from Afri Invest. You know, they've given some stocks here, some ratings, and we have the likes of the banking sector, consumer goods, industrials, oil and gas. And starting with the banking sector there, we're seeing for Access Core, they're given a buy rating there. Upside potential about 30%. That's according to Afri Invest. FBNH, they're saying accumulate right there. Dangote Sugar, they have a hold rating for Dangote Sugar. And for the telecoms, we see MTN Nigeria having a buy rating. Seplat, that's for oil and gas. That's for that's actually a sell rating there. So we see Afri Invest that they accumulate most of these stocks, showing you what should be your radar for the new trading week. And definitely, if you're an investor that likes to hold for long, then you'll be looking at stocks that have good prices right now. You don't want to buy high and sell low. You want to buy low and sell high. So those are the stocks there. Those are the ratings from Afri Invest. Let's get a check on the oil market. Oil prices edged up in early Asian trade today, following a more than 7% drop last week on worries about demand in China, the world's top oil importer, and an easing of concerns about potential supply disruptions in the Middle East. Now we see 0.37%. That's for Brent crude, $73.33 a barrel. WTI, that's a U.S. grade, still below that $70 psychological level, $69.53 a barrel. A bigger move up, 0.45%. The gains represented less than 5% of the dollar value for both contracts that was lost last week. Brent had settled more than 7% lower, while WTI lost a bigger 8%. That marked the contract's biggest weekly declines since September 2nd on slowing economic growth in China and falling risk premiums in the Middle East. So still a lot of volatility in the oil market there. Big moves up or down. Let's get a check on the FX market now. The Naira on Friday gained a big 3% last week from 1,660 Naira to 1,600 Naira. That was a close. And we saw intervention in the market by the Central Bank of Nigeria. They did sell dollars to some of the banks, but for the NAFEX window, it was a dip there of about 59 Naira to close, 0.71% down. That's for NAFEX, but big gain there for the NAFEM window. So other stories now. The Nigeria Customs Service said it collected 4.28 trillion Naira as revenue between January and September 2024. This amount represents a 33% increase compared to the 3.21 trillion Naira the service collected as revenue in the whole of 2023. With the third quarter 2024 performance, the service now has an outstanding of 981 billion Naira for the fourth quarter to meet its target of 5.1 trillion Naira for the 2024 full year. So we're still seeing big collections there from the Nigerian Customs Service. But on the flip side, manufacturing firms have paid off about 1.62 trillion Naira in debts. And that's most of the manufacturing companies in Nigeria. They've reduced their debt burden by 1.62 trillion. That's between February and June 2024. And this is according to data from the Central Bank of Nigeria's statistical bulletin on sectoral distribution of credit by deposit money banks. So this drop represents a 14.85% decline in manufacturing loans, and this coming amidst rising interest rates that have increased borrowing costs across the economy. So definitely we'll see the central bank there trying to tame inflation, raising rates, and the manufacturers there feeling the brunt there for high cost of credit. Well, as Nigeria aims for a $1 trillion economy, stakeholders are calling for technological adoption at Nigeria's borders and financial system. At a workshop organized by the Finance and Business online publishers, participants discuss how technological advancements can transform our financial system and our borders to achieve a $1 trillion economy. Take a listen.
Gathered in this hall are stakeholders in Nigeria's financial ecosystem, regulators and entrepreneurs, and on the front burner of this workshop organized by Finance and Business online publishers is exploring how technological advancements can transform our financial systems and improve overall efficiency. Adoption of technology by regulators in Nigeria has had its challenges, and the Controller General of Customs, Mr. Adewale Adeniyi, represented by the Controller Tinkan Island Command, Deran Nadi, emphasized the importance of technology at the ports.
Resistance to change is one of the challenges that we have. Personnel accustomed to manual processes may resist adopting new technologies, necessitating robust training and change management strategies. One of the key change management strategies that we need is what we are doing here today, and I wish we will have the entire maritime media and all the stakeholders to be part of what you are doing here today. Awareness and clearance of ignorance about opportunities in the industry is what we need. Everybody likes his comfort zone. So whenever you introduce a new innovation in the system, the initial thing for people to do is to resist it.
Also highlighted is the importance of integrating digital solutions into financial infrastructure.
Financial infrastructure to enable inclusion is very key to the economic development of this country. The current president of Nigeria, President Tinubu, is someone that believes so much in the informal sector. And financial technology and infrastructure that can facilitate the inclusion of the informal sector will jumpstart this economy.
It is hoped that with adoption of relevant technologies in Nigeria's ports and financial system, transactions will become more seamless and borders smart.
Good, sir.
All right, so it's a brand new trading week right here in Nigeria. Let's get a sense of opportunities in Nigeria's capital market and possible hedges at this point against currency devaluation and high inflation. Well, joining us for this conversation, we have Mr. Nnamdi Wizo, CEO of Commercial Partners Trading, joining me via Zoom. Great to have you on the show. Hello, Nnamdi. All right, Nnamdi, maybe you might have to unmute. All right, let's try this again. Great to have you, Nnamdi. So definitely it's a brand new trading week right here in Nigeria, but a lot of issues to unpack right there in the capital market. We've seen FBN Holdings, they have a proposal for their rights issue. They also have a new group managing director and a planned name change. How are you seeing all that's playing out with this company? Hello, Nnamdi. I can't seem to hear you. I see your mouth is moving, but I can't hear you. We'll try it again. Maybe you might have to unmute again. But yeah, as I said before, so much playing out in our markets. And from last week's performance and the equities market, we did see a positive gain regardless of the losses, about 3 trading sessions of losses. But we're seeing the market did bounce back with the last 2 trading sessions, and we got a positive close. So a lot to look out for this trading week. Not a lot of economic data to look out for, but definitely it's all about what's going to happen next at the next MPC meeting. It's still about fighting inflation. What's the MPC going to do next? We'll definitely find out about all of that. But let's try and get Nnamdi on again. Okay, we'll try and get Nnamdi back on. Definitely. So much playing out for this week. If you're looking at opportunities in most of these markets, everyone's trying to find out with what we're seeing with geopolitics in the Middle East and with rising cost of living right here in Nigeria. We're trying to find out what's the best investment hedge. We're going to be talking a lot about that. But last week, I was in Nairobi, Kenya for the Accelerated Partnership for Renewables in Africa Forum. That's APRA. The government of Kenya and Irina did co-host the first forum as of October 14 to 16, 2024 in Nairobi, Kenya. Here's a summary of what played out.
Advocating for a faster shift to renewable energy. During a three-day investment forum in Nairobi, Kenya, these leaders highlighted the numerous advantages of moving towards renewables.
Together, we can innovate on how to overcome barriers and show that we can be faster and more impactful when working together toward the same objective. I'm confident that this forum will result in concrete outcomes.
The forum, hosted by countries involved in the Accelerated Partnership for Renewables in Africa, APRA, brought together ministers, investors, developers, and financial institutions.
Accelerating the deployment of clean energy solutions is not only essential for tackling the climate crisis, but also for promoting inclusive economic growth and improving livelihoods across the continent. The success of these efforts, however, depends on sustained public and private investment in clean energy development.
Stakeholders highlighted Africa's slow investment in renewable energy investment. In the various panel sessions held, the consensus was Africa needs access to affordable financing.
When it comes to hydropower, and we've been looking into this issue for a few years now, about half of Africa's hydropower fleets is in need of rehabilitation, and the good chunk of it is outright sort of run down and needs sort of serious sort of rehabilitation. So we're looking to support also modernization of existing legacy hydropower assets.
I think from a mega point of view, where we engage in projects, it's typical, as I mentioned, guarantees or de-risking are not necessarily band-aids.
At the end of the three-day APRA forum, stakeholders went away with two major points. Africa cannot be left behind in this energy transition process, and even though investment in renewable development has increased, investments need to be ramped up to keep global warming below the 2% target. Ladi Williams, reporting for Channels Television.
Right, and definitely with the grid collapses we've seen so far, it also talks about also putting in some renewable energy sources with the grid mix to actually help with some of these collapses. But a lot to talk about there, and a lot of investments need to go into that. But let's try and bring in Nnamdi Nwizu again now. He's the CEO, Commercial Partners Trading. Hello, Nnamdi. Let's try this again. Can you hear me?
Hi, sorry, I think I had some network issues.
Fantastic. So I can hear you now. So I was talking before about what we're seeing with the FBN Holdings, the rights issue proposal. They also have a new group managing director and a possible name change. How are you seeing all that's playing out with this company?
Well, I mean, so far it seems to be good, seems to be great. In fact, if you look at their results that they released, half year, you've seen the profit grow by about 92%. Which means they seem to be getting something right. And we've also seen them try and change the strategy a little bit with the sale of FBN Quest, which is more or less like their merchant banking arm, and trying to focus more on core banking, core commercial banking. And with the appointment of their new GMD, I think it's all part of their strategy to try and refocus. Wale is a fantastic guy. In fact, I was one of my first bosses when I worked in GTB. There's somebody that I know pretty well, and someone I know is extremely capable, and will be able to, lead them in the right direction, or lead them in the direction that they want to go. So I think that was a great decision from them.
Right, and definitely, coming into a brand new trading week, we're seeing last week, even though the Naira lost for the week, there was a big gain there for the Friday session. And we did hear the CBN governor, he did say, a weak Naira is opportunity for exports. But in your view, when are we going to start seeing this, opportunity really play out, for having a weak currency at this point?
Well, I mean, I agree. If you look at countries like China, they tend to try and devalue their currency. to make their exports a lot more attractive. The only challenge that you have with Nigeria is the fact that we don't really export a lot. I mean, beyond crude oil, which is priced in USD, already. So, I mean, that doesn't really help us with regards to the value currency. But I think with what has happened, what we need to try as much as possible is to focus more on the fiscal side to try and encourage, manufacturing companies to set up, encourage production, so that Nigeria now starts to export more. That is when the weaker currency, right, the depreciation of the currency can actually help us. So at this point in time, we are still largely an import-dependent economy. So the the thesis around or the analogy around being able to encourage export, it will not really be felt at this point in time. I mean, yes, we've seen things like customs revenue increase, but the truth about it is it's not increasing because you've had more exports. It's just increasing because you've depreciated the currency. So government is earning more, but not from production, but just from the move in the currency, which really is not a sustainable one. So we need to try and get Nigeria to start producing so that we can start exporting a lot more. By the time you get things like power rights, you get transportation rights, transportation from, for instance, the farms where you have agri products being produced down to the ports where they're going to be exported. By the time, I mean, you see Nigeria has a lot of livestock, cattle, but we have very few ranches set up for this. And these are the kind of places that we need to look at and say, how can we improve, around these areas? There's no reason why we shouldn't be talking about exporting Nigerian beef. When people go to restaurants and they're looking for, say, for instance, you want to buy steak in Nigeria, people focus more on the imported ones versus locally produced steak from Nigeria. Because, I mean, we don't have a proper ranching system that will help us develop the kind of quality of meat that you need, as an example, and that's such a low-hanging fruit.
All right, let's also look at FDI. How does a weaker currency, how does that influence FDI inflows into a country? We did see our FDI did hit a new low from the last result we got.
Well, ideally, it should, because, I mean, for those who are coming to invest in government securities, those who, and when they come, they buy the Nigerian currency. So what they could get with $1 million, say about 7-8 months ago, a year ago, would have been about 700 million naira, right? Now they will get 1.7 billion, as an example. So you would see that doing this, devaluing or depreciating your currency, would more or less make it more attractive for FDIs to come in. If you look at those who are coming to invest in critical infrastructure sectors in the country, and they are looking, how much can my $1 million take me, or where can my 10 million or 100 million take me? They can get a lot more in terms of value from their currency when they convert it to the naira, and be able, to basically come in and buy up Nigerian companies, as an example, and that would help them, or that would make Nigeria look more attractive. The flip side, however, would be that they would also be worried about what happens with the currency in the mid to long term, because if you come in and you're going to be here for 5-10 years, you don't want to come in and then you come in with $1 million, your business grows, but you suddenly realize that in 10 years' time, if you decide to sell and get out, your $1 million now ends up being $100,000. So yes, it helps them come in, but they also need a bit of stability so they know that they can plan when they're coming into Nigeria.
All right, so looking at the global space this time, we're seeing weak demand in China. We're also seeing Middle Eastern geopolitics in the Middle East. Looking at all of this, Player, do you think some kind of bear market might be brewing, in the global space that could impact risk assets, going forward?
Ideally, that shouldn't be the case, because ideally you should, you have the Fed beginning to cut. The Fed cut 50 basis points. The ECB cut again, just I think the tail end of last week, either Wednesday or Thursday, they did I think it was 25 basis point cut. We expect the Fed to cut rates again when they have their next meeting, which ideally should spur growth, right? Lower cost of funds means that people can borrow to ensure that they invest and help, grow the economy and grow the GDP. However, the worries that people have is the fact that market has been tight for so long with the increases from all across in rates by all the central banks, that you're now at the point where people are worried that they might have kept markets tight for too long, and that by the time they start to ease, we might not be able to avoid going into some sort of global recession once again. But also, they need to be careful in terms of the Fed and ECB that they don't cut too aggressively and end up spurring inflation once again. So it's trying to find that fine balance between the need for growth and also trying to ensure that you don't come and encourage or spur inflation once again. So we're not officially in a bear market, but we'll continue to see the Fed or the ECB and other central banks gradually reduce rates, checking the parameters, trying to ensure that they are getting the rate reduction right. Then we should be able to avoid that supposed bear market, because lower rates should be good for equities market, lower rates should be good for the fixed income market, lower rates should be good for things like utility companies in the US and all across, and also should be good for sub-Saharan African countries or emerging market countries. So I think that if they get the rate cuts right across by most of the central banks, right, globally, then we should be able to avoid that bear market and start to see the economy and GDP growth start once again.
All right. Yeah, thank you so much. Always great to have your perspective. Nnamdi Wizu, CEO, Commercial Partners Trading. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
All right, so yeah, we're going to be joining a live coverage that's on DSTV. It's the Abwad convocation service, but Business Morning continues on all other platforms. All right, let's take the conversation further now. Investing when in the midst of a cost of living crisis definitely is a very, very tricky one. But let's bring in Mukhtar Mohammed now as the CEO of Finance with Mukhtar to tell us how to navigate this. Great to have you on the show. Good morning.
Thank you for having me always, Laddie. My pleasure.
Fantastic. So talk to me, how do capital markets normally react, in the midst of a cost of living crisis? Is it negative, for the capital market?
Laddie, of course, it's negative, especially when the earning ability is low. So the cost of living goes up. First of all, you think of food, you think of housing, you think of clothing, you think of education before you even think of investment, because those are basic necessity. It's only when your basic necessity is met, you begin to think about your desire to make more money, then you begin to think of the capital market. So when cost of living is high, definitely, most investors don't think about investing in the capital market, especially retail investors, which are low-end investors that are trying to build their wealth over a long time. But for high net investors, it would be a better time for them, because that means some of them are making more, seeing assets coming down, and they have the liquidity to come in. But for low-earning investors, retail investors especially, and like what you are seeing in the Nigerian market at the moment, you realize that a lot of retail investors are not even taking opportunity of their right issues. Ordinarily, they should be taking opportunity of the right and the offer issue, but they are not, because, again, they are thinking of meeting up their basic necessity. And some of them even go as far as reducing their holding to meet basic needs. So definitely, when cost of living goes high, the capital market in the short term and sometime in the long term, depending on how long we see this drag, suffer.
Right, and we see, most investors now having to deal with currency devaluation, high inflation, and a cost of living crisis at the same time. What would you say is the best, portfolio mix that can help outperform these three?
Well, the best portfolio mix is to get, you have to be in all space of Nigeria market, especially the equity market. You want to play the fixed income space if you're looking at short-term returns. You want to play the equity market if you are looking at long-term return. If you are looking at FX devaluation, how affects your current, how affects your holding, then you need to play the capital market. So it depends on which side you are. Just like I listened to the last interview I had, if you're foreign investors, it's good time. FX devaluation is helping you have more holding. also make you invest more and at a cheaper rate. If you're in Nigeria, keeping your money, whether in naira and dollar or not, or it not generating a means of income, means that you are suffering from depreciation. And if you really want to beat inflation or hyperinflation, it's the stock market that you need to play, because what happens is that the stock market sometimes actually goes up to meet up with inflation, because most of the companies that are listed, their goods and their services will go high. That means they will be able to bring in more profit. And so then the price of their equity also might go up. So definitely at a time like this is not the time to really just keep your money in a savings account that is not generating anything, or you are holding a dollar account and you begin so excited about the dollar account because every morning you see the exchange rate goes up. The only time it makes sense and makes value is when you change it back to naira. What if you are going to be keeping that dollar because you have to, you need to spend it in the United States or in the United Kingdom? You have to know that inflation in those places is about 4-point-something%. So if your dollar is not generating up to 6 to 7%, then you are losing money. So whichever way you are, you just need to see how your money can generate more income.
All right, so it's a brand new trading week right here. What stocks do you think are under the radar right now, or sectors that you think investors should actually be looking at for this week?
The oil and gas sector is there. Last week we saw it listed. We saw it started at a high. We saw it slow down. I think investors should watch the space for that stock. I think it might be getting to where a lot of investors will begin to see a long-term value. It's about 500. It closed at about 600 and something. Investors are still looking at it. I think it's a good investment for the long term. I say for the long term. So that's one space that you have to look at. You also have to look at Transcorp, the whole of Transcorp holding. What has happened? What has this result meant to them? What will happen to Transcorp Hotel, Transcorp Power, and then Transcorp itself? The results are impressive, but commensurate with some of the price of the stocks, you might see some pullback in that space. You could see negativity trend in there, especially in the Transcorp Hotel result that comes out and earning per share of just ₦1 for a stock that is selling almost at 100 naira. That you mean you are looking at a dividend yield of 1-point-something%, which is very, very poor if you look at what has happened in other sectors of the market. The banking sector, UBA result came in over the week, and we've seen the performance has been good. Well, investors now begin to see value, and by and by we are still waiting for the right issue or the public offer that could also play in this week. FBN Holdings, also like your first guest said, is one space to watch out. They're changing their names. They are coming for the right issue. Is it right price? Is it the right value? So we'll see how investors react to those numbers. For me, those are the sectors that we really have to watch out for. And you know that UBA has always been a stock that the chairman of the group have always said that we are strategic in terms of making sure that all our shareholders enjoy benefit, the right issues, that make sure that it's going to do 2 right issues after each payment of the dividend. So tomorrow is the day of payment. So we could see those payments come in. We could see the right issue anytime this week. And we could see a lot of activities in the UBA space for me.
All right, so much definitely to unpack there, but thank you so much, Mukhtar Mohammed, CEO Finance with Mukhtar. It was great having your perspective today. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Ladi.
All right, so that's how it's looking right here in Lagos, Nigeria. The markets are open, and we'll be giving you a summary of what's playing out. That's for intraday analysis. That's on Business Incorporated at 1 p.m. We'll bring you all of that information, even from the global markets. That's the show today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ladi Williams. I hand things back over to the Sunrise Daily team.
Residents of Kaduna State across the 23 local government areas came out early to participate in the local government elections. According to the Kaduna State Electoral Commission, polling units opened as scheduled, though there were reports of late arrival of voting materials in some places. Governor Obasani cast his vote at the LEA Kawo polling unit in Kaduna North local government area. After performing his civic right, he gives an assessment of the exercise, emphasizing the need to strengthen local government administration.
Some of our agents have been going around. The report reaching us is that the election is free, fair and peaceful. I can say that we had some few issues in 1 or 2 local governments, but in only about 2 or 3 polling units or wards. But generally, the election is going on in about 23 local governments, and the report we are hearing is that it's largely peaceful, fair and transparent. And I have no doubt in my mind at the end of the day, we will be able to have a very credible election in Kaduna State. Like I said, this is a local government election that is very important for us. And of course, you are aware that APC have gone around all the 255 wards to campaign. That is the reason why I'm extremely very confident that APC will come out victorious in this very election by the grace of God.
The state chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Council describes the election as largely peaceful and transparent.
Quite okay. There is some delay in some of the sensitive materials that are within the localities of Kaduna South and Kaduna North. Normally, during elections, the far distance areas, the election materials will go in the night. The ones in Kaduna will go in the morning. So that is what transferred. Before coming in here, I called Kaduna South and I called Kaduna North, but the election materials are being delivered already.
After the collation of results from the 23 local government areas, the State Independent Electoral Commission declares the All Progressives Congress winner of the election across the state.
By the power vested on the Commission, I hereby wish to confirm the result earlier collected and returned by the returning officers. APC won the 23 local government chairmanship position and the 23 and 255 ward councillorship position across the state.
In the coming days, Governor Sani is expected to swear in the winners of the chairmanship seats, while councillors will take their oath of office at the headquarters of their local government.
All right, welcome back. Yes, indeed, we will talk about the elections, the local government elections in Kaduna State in a moment, because yes, we've heard the governor of Kaduna State speaking about the outcome of the elections. We've also have heard the PDP themselves, as well as Labour, raising their concern about the conduct, the outcome of that election, which we will bring you in just a moment. But yes, we've seen different states going about the elections. I mean, in case you've forgotten, remember the Supreme Court decision about having validly elected local government persons, chairman. So, because if you don't, well, they won't get any resources, any funds to run those states. And so now states, let me use the word, scrambling to ensure that they all have elections. However, those elections turn out, because there seems to be a pattern with a lot of these elections in local government areas.
And it will be interesting to see. I mean, people have been keeping tabs on what is happening in all of the states where local government elections have been conducted, whether we're holding the state electoral commissions to the same standards that we hold the Independent National Electoral Commission to. I mean, there have also been conversation around whether INEC should now be forced to conduct or should now be made to conduct the elections at the local government level, because you now find that a lot of state actors are complaining that there are no elections happening in those places. When you look at the results for the states that have conducted elections so far, what you will find is that in almost all of the states, all of the seats have gone to the party where the governor is either interested or he's a member of. Interested, I use that advisedly, because in some states where it has been difficult for the governors' people to contest in their own party, you find that they have defected to another party where he is giving them, tacit support, and almost everyone on that platform is declared winner in those elections. So people have been asking what sort of elections are taking place. And I think the situation in Kaduna State is no different. And it's remarkable that Kaduna is one of those states where, that is coming to the fore. Because I do remember that when Malam Nasir Rufai was governor, he introduced some changes to the SIEC there, the SIECOM I think it's called, or is it Kaduna State Electoral Commission. They were very proud to have electronic voting, so to speak. And they said they were able to produce one or two other councillors or local government chairmen that were not in their own party. But who knows? What happened over the weekend? Did they build on that or did they fail?
Let's find out. We've got two of those gentlemen joining us today. Edward Marshall is the PDP chairman for Kaduna State, and then we also have Yaya Baba Pate, the secretary for APC Kaduna State. They join us virtually. Gentlemen, good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today. Let me start with you, Mr. Pate, about the conduct of the election. What is your own assessment of how the elections turned out?
Thank you, Chamberlain, and good morning. First of all, we want to express our gratitude to the electorate of Kaduna State across 23 local governments and 255 electoral wards. APC is extending a gratitude to all the electorate that come out in mass to vote for our candidates. Regarding your questions, I want to commend the electoral body for organizing a free, fair, and credible elections. Though in every election, you must find some little hitches. But be that as it may, the election was generally successful. The process of the election was okay to 90% of the political parties and to the electorate of Kaduna State.
What would you say to parties who are saying, well, not exactly so, because there were challenges for the election? Some of them think that it didn't turn out as your party has painted it.
The electoral body did its best to conduct a credible poll, and out of the 11 political parties that participated in the election, 10 political parties accepted the conduct and the process of the election. The civil society also commended the electoral body for the way and manner the election was held and the peaceful nature before, during, and even after the election in Kaduna State. There was no fighting in almost all the polling stations across the state. The election was held freely. The election was held fairly, and everybody is happy with the outcome of the results so far.
All right. Let me ask Mr. Marshall. He also joins us virtually. Good morning again, and thank you for coming on today. So give us your own impression of how the elections went over the weekend.
Thank you very much, Jonas family, for having me. Sadly, we will stand before God one day and tell him how we handle the assignment given to us. It's not only because it's politics. In Kaduna State, on 19, there was no election in Kaduna State. We will urge Channel family to ask their correspondents to go around the CCOM offices at the local government headquarters. They will still find election materials stuck there because they were not moved to the wards. So if they are not moved to the wards, how will somebody say election took place? It's unfortunate
So, but Mr. Marshall, the SECOM themselves, weren't they the ones that announced the results?
SECOM chairperson of the team had no right to announce results because that is not the law. The law and the guideline used by SECOM clearly spell out mode of collection and announcement of results. The law passed by the State Assembly and ascended by the governor and gazetted on 25th July. The Gazette has this code 2873/7/2024/500. Section 23 clearly stated that election will take place at the polling unit and the presiding officer will announce the highest winner among the political parties that participated. Thereafter, result will be collected at the Ward Collection Center and the returning officer will announce the party with the highest vote, hence the councillorship will be announced. And then move to local government, where results from all the wards will be collected and the chairman will be announced. That is exactly what is in this guideline that I'm raising it.
Is that not what was done?
It was not done. When we came to receive materials, our representative at the headquarters of SECOM brought out sensitive materials without the wards and local government result sheet. We protested. Our members were chased out at 3 a.m. and trucks loaded with materials were escorted with heavy security to our local government.
Okay.
Can I ask if there was any indication, that this election, because if I ask, I'm sure you will say that the elections were not free and fair. Was there any indication pre the election that this was going to happen? Or did you really have confidence that SECOM was going to do something different from what had been the norm or what had been the complaints about state electoral commissions before now?
Thank you very much. On 8th of October, I addressed a press conference where I raised a red flag that there were manipulation or a collusion between government and some member of state assemblies to change the law. 2 days later, the state assembly came and denied. 48 hours later, a new law appeared where section 23 was expunged and replaced with another section that says that the chairperson will be the one to announce results. We took up this issue with her at the court, and she there was nothing like that. That the law she is using, law passed by the assembly, which is same law in their guideline. We will send the guideline to you. You will see what the guideline says. So It was only when they answered us before PDP signed the law and signed their report. So we knew something like that was.
Okay, well, we're losing your connection. Mr. Patti, you heard what he has said. How do you respond to that?
And we challenged them that they went to the
Mr. Marshall, just hold on a bit because your audio is we're losing you, keeps going off and on, so we'll try and sort that. Let's get Mr. Patti to respond to some of what you've said. Mr. Patti, please go ahead.
To what he said regarding the announcement, particularly from the press release by the electoral body, that is SECOM. If you can go again to when the chairperson of SECOM is announcing, he stated clearly that election followed the due process of the law. Election results were announced at the polling units. Results were collated at the ward collection centers. Councillorship positions were declared at the ward collection center. So also that of the chairmanship election was collated at the local government level and declared and the result declared for that of the chairman at the local level. That was what is contained in our statement, and that is what actually happened during the local government election. About what you were saying about the Katsicom law of 2023 by Kaduna State Assembly, I think he was properly replied by PDP members. Kaduna State House of Assembly is made of 34 members, and 12 of them are PDP. The spokesperson of Kaduna State House of Assembly is a PDP man by the name Honorable Mala. He adequately replied, Mr. Chiamo, on the baseless allegation, like I say, of trying to, by PDP that are saying the lawmakers are trying to insert something new in the law. So he was properly replied. There was nothing like that. And I think they have members of PDP in the assembly. So I think it is the duty of their members in the assembly to protect whatsoever they see that it is wrong, or that will affect their party positions. So he was properly replied by a PDP member.
Okay, Mr. Marshall, I hope you can hear us now. So you heard what Mr. Patrick said about your members. So could you tell us, with respect to the laws that you said was changed, what did your members do since they were in the State House of Assembly?
Thank you, Chamberlain. Within 72 hours, I addressed a World Press Conference twice. When I raised the red flag, Assembly said there was no law in that respect. 48 hours later, another one emerged. Before going to address the second World Press Conference, I sat down with my members in the State Assembly, including the Mara he is naming as a Chairman, Information House of Assembly. I brought out two laws. I said, this is the law you signed. This is another new law. Kindly tell us, before I go out and speak, if you are aware of this new law. All of them say in particular that they are not aware of this law. So when I went to address the World Press Conference, I told the whole world that my members are denying the knowledge about this new law. Now, the law is here. We will send a soft copy to channels to see the two laws that is operational. Earlier on, we challenged the chairperson that he signed two guidelines. One guideline was stating an amount of money, 500,000 for the chairmanship and 50 for the councillorship. Another one, 2,500,000. Our members denied the knowledge of prescribing this amount of money. So there were a lot of plans to manipulate this election. PDP didn't go into this election as underdog. In the last election, we won the 3 senators. It has never happened in Kaduna State. Out of 16 House of Representatives, we won 10. Presently, we have 8. In the State Assembly, we have 12 members. In the last local government election conducted by their predecessor, Everify, out of 255 councillorship, we won 110. We are not underdog. We went with our strength. We have the grassroots supporting us. The market women who cannot sell and even take care of their family supporting us. The civil servant whose salary cannot take them home are supporting us. Students who are dropped out from schools or who cannot pay their school fees are supporting us. No election took place anywhere. We challenge the APC and we say that they should go from local government to local government. You will see electoral materials lying in the storehouse of SICOM. We will send to you videos of electoral officer that announced in their various local government that election never took place there. It's a record. We will set it down. We will tell the whole world. The unfortunate people say that it happened in any other state. Kaduna State is not another state. It is not another state. Let's even say election took place and we are rigged out. It's a different thing. But we are saying election never took place.
So what do you intend to do now? I mean, because this is what you now allege, that there were no elections, and you also say that, you know, there are electoral materials littered all over the different local government areas. What is the PDP's plan of action moving forward then?
Thank you very much. Before now, we had gone to court to challenge the new law that is flying all over the place. We will pursue this case to the logical conclusion because the chairperson, whom we will send a video to you that made announcement within 57 minutes, without even calling the name of the winners and the scores, each one Ghana, we have taken them to court and the State Assembly, saying that the law they use was a fake law, and we will challenge it to a logical conclusion.
All right, Mr. Pastor, just hang on. My colleague has got questions for you. Aya, go ahead.
I should take this to Mr. Patti first. You know, one of the questions that one would want to ask is whether or not the people were even aware in the first place.
All right,
so,
not sure I can hear.
I don't know. Can you hear me, Mr. Patti?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. So, how much voter education or voter sensitization would you say took place before the election?
Sincerely speaking, when we had the stakeholder engagement at CICOM,
actually, the question is first of all for Mr. Patti, Mr. Marshall. Just hold on, Mr. Patti. You go first.
APC in Kaduna State have got all the nook and crannies across the 255 wards that make 55 electoral in Kaduna State to tell our candidate, to tell the electorate the reasons why they should vote for APC. So we have done a lot of sensitization to our members and to our supporters and give the reasons why they should keep supporting APC, particularly we were able to let them know the kind of good policies by our able governor,
so
Senator Malam,
how persuaded would you say that the people were? Just 1 second, Mr. Patti. Given the number of people, the population of people that came out, how effective would you say that was?
Yeah, we can say the turnout of the people is the electoral turnout in good numbers, even though off-cycle elections are not normally, the turnout doesn't used to be like that of the general election. So, but so far so good, the turnout is encouraging.
Okay. Well, Mr. Masha, your time now. Would you agree with him? How effective would you say we were able to sensitize and mobilize people to come out and vote, particularly for these elections, which historically many people don't usually just come out to vote?
Speaking, I will tell you that when we had the stakeholder meeting, we challenged the chairperson and the commissioner in charge of voter. There's no single sensitization anywhere. And that meeting called barely a week to the election, and we say that was.
Mr. Masha, if you can still hear me, I'm just wondering, if you said that there was no single sensitization, is that to say that your party also did not come out to sensitize the voters in Kaduna State? Okay. Well, I guess that's the challenge of a network right there. You know, but that's Chamberlain and Marquette, that will be one of the issues that one we want to consider, because if we're hearing that on the one side there was no election, on the other side, you know, there was election, it probably speaks to whether or not there were people to even defend their own votes. Marquette and Chamberlain.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's one of the other narratives that I'm just trying to explore. But above all else is that part of what Senator Shekarau was also speaking to is the way our elections are structured. What can we do to make it a lot better, so that at least across board you can have a lot more acceptability, either both from the umpire themselves, or the electorate themselves, or several other people. But we're winding down now. Let's just go back to the gentlemen and get their concluding thoughts on what they think should be done moving forward. Mr. Party, let me start with you. Having heard all of these complaints about parties in the state, what would you recommend in terms of what can be done to ensure there's a lot more acceptability, whichever way, moving forward?
So moving forward, I think I will contribute to 1 to 3 suggestions to improve the electoral process across Nigeria. 1, we should strengthen our laws, electoral laws. We should strengthen our laws as it is in other developed countries of the world. There should be general sensitization to voters across board by every stakeholder, the political parties, and other social groups, to sensitize the voters for the need to come out to becoming an mass to be voting of candidates of their choice. And also we should also improve, simplify and improve the process of elections. I think this will help greatly in improving the electoral processes in Nigeria.
All right, I want to thank you for talking to us today, Mr. Yaya Baba Party, the Secretary for the APC in Kaduna State. We've also had Mr. Edward Marshall, the Chairman of the PDP in Kaduna State. We lost his connection. We couldn't get him back online. But thank you, gentlemen, for talking to us today. So there you go. That is it today. We do thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time. I'm Chamberlain Uso. Goodbye.
Thank you for watching. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf. Have a productive day.
And a wonderful and productive week. I'm Ayo Makinde.